Welcome back to the Ben Breakfast Show. Have you refilled your cup of tea, coffee, espresso? I have refilled mine. So yes, like I said, we have wonderful guests for you today on the show, starting with a beautiful woman here today. I'm sure she's thinking, oh yes, you're beautiful. And she's a public speaker, she's a motivational speaker. And she is here to talk to you and to inspire you. You know, it's the beginning of the year, but it's been a bit rough, you know. The economy is not smiling. I've been saying pensions, they're cutting on pensions, they're cutting this, cutting that, cutting even for startup businesses. It's not really been good. The government are not even smiling. We've been discussing Brexit and the decision. So we need, you know, sometimes you just need that talk, you need that word just to push you ahead, you know, to keep you going. So we have Simone Olagoge here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. So, Simone, do you want to give us a brief introduction about yourself before we get into it?
Okay, so you know my name is Simone Olagoge. I'm just turning 20, am I?
Yes, you are. You're 19.
That's right. We're best friends already. So, yeah. In terms of my upbringing, you know, I say life is I love life because
True.
You never know what it's going to throw at you.
Yeah.
And so, like many young ladies, when you're born, you grow up, you've got all these visions and dreams of what life is going to be. And guess what? It hasn't quite panned out the way I planned. And so I've come to be a person that's passionate about motivating people to deal with the hard stuff in life and to really, you know, buckle down and to move on when you get past obstacles. Yeah. I was born in the island of Jamaica, in the Caribbean, and spent many happy years there. And then came to the UK as my mum migrated here. Okay. And so experienced the education system of Britain, which was very different.
Very. Tell me about it. Very.
So I had a culture shock, I had all kinds of shocks. So, I say this all the time, but the first time I came to the UK, it was, you know, I didn't know how I was going to find where I lived because all the houses were the same colour.
I have that problem too. So, you know, it was a culture shock growing up.
Went through school, university, and had the various numbers of jobs. I currently work with an organisation that we do NGO work overseas, so I travel in Africa a little bit and set up programs to help local people to advance community programs. So, yeah.
So, nice introduction, by the way. So what programs have you done lately within your own community or within, London, definitely, that's your community.
Yeah, London. I think last year, one of the things I looked at doing was looking at our communities. So I'm trying to do programs. So, you know, every week I support a homeless project, and so it was really good last year to renovate that and get that sort of just making looking nice for the clients to come in and things like that. So I travel around the UK visiting projects and supporting people, and of course overseas doing that.
Another passion of yours, which I read about, was women and children.
The nature of being a woman, right? I've got 2 children, 2 girls, Adiol and Remiana. And so, you know, I guess I class myself as a young mum, probably not as young as mums are today, but it's a challenge of being a mum growing, you know, you're juggling. I say I have about 7 hats a day.
You do?
Right? You've got your hat as a woman, you've got mummy, you know, your wife, you're working, you know, and you might be doing charitable work as well. So you're juggling so many things. I often say to ladies, we're the only ones that can cook a dinner and cry over the pot, dry our tears and serve it beautifully, you know, on the table. Ta-da!
Yeah, so, like nothing ever happened. Yeah. So in terms of talking to women, because women, to me, I'm a woman too, so men will understand, yes, but we have to talk about it. Yeah. We're very sensitive. We're like a sponge too. We can like take everything. Sometimes I think we are stronger than men, not physically, but emotionally. So what experience have you had with women, with issues? Do you want to share with us and how you've helped them to come out of it?
You know, one of the things I think when you think about women and also men is the fact that let's talk about a situation where something hits you weren't expecting. Yeah. For most of us, you want to stay in bed and pull the duvet over you. I used to think if I did that, the event would pass. You know, if I slept long enough, you know, the crisis must be over when I wake up. I came to realize life is not like that.
No, it's not.
And so, ladies, there's times you go through very difficult things. You just don't know how you're going to overcome this hurdle. It's too much. And I don't know, I've been a chronic worrier sometimes, you know, worry so much I can't sleep. I'm just worried. My husband's like, he's gone to bed. Ladies are up. We're like 10 steps ahead. If this doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen. And we're thinking so much about a situation. So I often think when you've got a challenge, when something is really difficult, you worry a lot. You're trying to figure it out, and sometimes you just can't see the woods from the tree, they say. But one thing I've learned is that you've got to tackle the situation. A lot of them are not going to go away with wishful thinking.
True.
You know, closing your eyes and, wishing a child, the boogie monster is going to go away if you close your eyes, they can't see you. It's not really true.
It's there.
You've got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I say to women all the time is you've got to deal with your situation.
Yeah.
I know it's not what you planned.
No.
I know it's unfair. I know, I understand, I cry with you, I sympathize with you, but life is life.
True.
How are you going to get over this? And so I remember seeing it in a recruitment agency, an ad or a poster once. It says, a hole in a road is either an obstacle or an opportunity.
True.
And that's what you've got to think about. What I'm currently facing, is it something that's going to derail me for the next 5 to 10 years? Yeah. Or is it an opportunity to let me think out of the box and find a way around this situation?
True.
So, yeah.
How about women that are like really hurting?
Hurting.
Yeah.
Healing takes time. It's like losing a loved one. Grieving has its ups and its downs. And so if you're hurting, whether a relationship, whether you could hurt over some very different situations.
Yeah.
Work can be a very hurtful place at times.
Yes, it can.
Friends can hurt you.
Yeah.
So it's a couple of things to think about. Is the reason why I'm hurting so much? Is it that it's triggered something in me? That for me, it brings up my past. It brings up things I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
And, it's really painful. And it's, how do I deal with that hurt? One, I'd advise people, if you're hurting, to think about why you're hurting. If it's someone you can speak to them about it. If someone's upset you, because lots of us internalize everything. And it's fine, but it's not fine.
It's not fine, true.
You don't have to be confrontational, but you can be upfront with someone and say, this is what's happened. Because you know what, one thing is, perspective is very important. How I see something and how you see it is completely different.
True.
Two people can see one scene and we've seen something completely different.
True.
So a lot of times, it's talking about it. Why did this happen? What was your thoughts behind it? And that sometimes brings understanding and sometimes it brings healing. So also allowing yourself time to heal, facing the situation, talking about it is great. People from the Black community have been traditionally not good at talking about things, whether it's, a bereavement or broken relationships. It's all internalized. It's fine. I'm over it. Really? And so we have to learn to talk. Talk with girlfriends and talk with people that will give you honest opinions. And so, and
advice. So, we mentioned women and also children. So is it in terms of maybe some, children that are not so, let me use the word naughty now. How do you talk to parents to be able to handle people like that?
Well, we've got a teenager in our house. I don't know how she got there. last time I saw her, she's 5 years old. Now, she's a teenager. And so we're dealing with the mood swings and we're dealing with the short temper, and everything in the teenager's life is quite dramatic.
It is.
So, if something happens, it's the end of the world. While you as an adult, it's fine. And they're in there, it can come across very selfish, very insolent. So we're learning as parents, okay, how do we cope with this? How do we respond? We remember how we were as teenagers and how our parents were. So I say to our girls, listen, you're so much better than how we were. You get away with much more. My mom was rigid, you couldn't answer back. I'm not giving you room to express yourself.
Tell me about it.
I tell you, we're good.
That's a blank check.
I tell you. So dealing with children that I think sometimes it's find out what's going on in their lives.
True.
What's going on at school. Sometimes they don't want to talk, and sometimes they do. But, one of the things we're trying to do with our daughter is, maybe take her out sometimes, say, let's have a coffee, because they want to feel grown up. Have a coffee, have your nails, and over these social events, talking emerges. So it's not grilling at the table.
In the house.
We try to, we do, that happens, but we're trying to just get into their world. Oh, what's happening? Who's, they're always on their phone, aren't they? And you're trying to say, what's happening? So I think with children, it's just, there's a lot of pressure on our children.
It is, and I think, as Black parents, they don't tend to understand us, or we don't tend to understand them because of the way we were brought up. you know, it's like, what are you going through? How can you have mention? No. You know, like everything is book, go get your book, church, book, which is fine. But sometimes I think parents should talk more to their kids. You get a lot when you talk more. That's why they confide more in maybe their friends, and they will give them bad advice, obviously, because they're all little. Because now looking at myself and looking at myself back in secondary school, and I'm just thinking, and I was doing the right thing. You know, like maybe if I'll say, Mommy, you don't understand. And my mom like, I understand. I'm your mom. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. But now, being a mom, I'm always like, oh, okay. Then I look at my kids and I'm like, can you just shush your mouth right there? So we need to just be in their own world sometimes.
What you're saying is so right. There's this thought behind a lot of us as black parents is, this is my child and not my friend.
Yes, true.
Now, that already, if you're my child and I'm going to tell you what to do, you're not my friend. There is a separation.
There is.
And I think I know how I was brought up, and you know, we share probably the similar things.
Definitely.
You know,
the whooping.
You do what I say. You can't think, and we're like, but we tell our children, don't we? You should have a mind. You should think, but yet you were not giving them opportunity to express.
It's true.
So it's allowing them to express, hear what they're saying, and we steer them in the right direction.
The right way.
I want to be my children's friend.
Yeah, I want to too. I want to be both, actually.
Yes.
I want to be the mom, and I still want to be the friend they can still come and talk to, because I'm so inquisitive. I want to know. You know, having a teenage girl, you want to know.
That's right.
So, because they'll get to a stage that all those shouting wouldn't work anymore.
No.
They would just go to the more comfort zone, and you just won't have a clue anymore. So in the beginning, we can give them all the training, but let's always remember to talk to them.
That's right.
And that is what is always lacking in our community. Talking to them, because you feel, I can't have to you know, like, you know how they are, it's just the whooping. It's what I say or nothing.
That's right.
I'm not saying we should do what they say, but you should just give them reasons why it can be done their own way now.
An explanation is good, because we want them to be creative thinkers. We want our children to be smart, to be confident. You can't tell them be smart, be confident, be self-assured, but at home they can't speak.
Exactly.
It doesn't work.
Exactly.
They're getting two mixed messages.
Exactly.
And so the confidence that we want, we're going to see that displayed in our homes. It is our role to steer them in the right way, to show them and explain things. And as you said, you know, I remember being, you know, a teenager, giving my friends advice. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I was young. You know, the things I said was ridiculous. I didn't have no experience of life.
True, yes. But you know, when we grow up, we learn, and I think parents should just try and learn from their own mistakes and try and just put the kids in the right, like you said, not like in a rigid way, because trust me, you know, rigid doesn't work. Because as kids, when we're teenagers, if you know your mom or dad were rigid, you make the rigid stay at home, and you rather go to a less rigid environment, do your stuff, and come on and be rigid. So you're making them like having, you know, they're two-sided. And you mentioned something about, you know, working with the homeless, and it's really, really sad. And obviously you'll be thinking, in this part of the world, everybody has a home. Can you share your experience with that?
Yes, I mean, I travel overseas, and so we set up projects, and it's interesting because we also bring volunteers from the UK overseas, and they'll work on projects. And a lot of times I've got to educate those overseas to say, these people that are working alongside you isn't because they're millionaires and they've got a lovely pension pot, it's they've had to save and work. My mom had 5 jobs when I came to the UK.
Wow.
You know, I didn't expect that, but that's how she supported us. I didn't see her. But for her, she had to work 5 jobs just to keep her children with clothes and food. And so what I have seen, though, in terms of homelessness over the years, is that the category of those who are classed as homeless or struggling has changed dramatically. It's no longer those who don't have a job and have no home. It's those that are struggling on the breadline. People that don't have enough to eat now are coming into centres and saying, can I have a meal? Can I sit here? Can I have something? Can I have some shopping? And so you're seeing the struggles within the UK financially hitting people that are working class, that do have a job or are ill and can't, or on benefits, but just simply don't have enough money to feed themselves or their children. And sometimes when they come, they're a bit embarrassed. They're a bit, I can't believe I'm in this place. But as I said at the beginning, life has a way of dealing you some hands you just never expected. And so my thing about homelessness is, it could be a next door neighbor. It could even happen in your family. people struggling, people lose homes a lot of times or lose their accommodation because of relationship breakdowns. A lot of men on the streets is because their marriage broke down.
And they have to leave the house.
They have to leave. The wife usually stays with the children and they have to leave. We don't have social housing enough to really take care of these men. So a lot of them are on the streets. They become bitter, they become hurt because it's my relationship, my marriage. I was married for 20 odd years and now look at me, what have I got to show for it? And so there's many reasons. You've got people that come from Europe to find jobs and it's just not worked out and they're on the streets. So the reasons are complex. You've got those that through life experience are on the streets and it's very difficult to get them off, and some who do want to leave the streets.
So how, because it's I learned something today, because I noticed, I'm not saying I don't see women on the street homeless, but I see a lot of more men than women, and you just wonder, okay, so they're going to sleep in this cold. So how do they, does the government try and feed them? I know there's some hostels or places you go to get food. How does it work?
So we do something in the winter, and in the winter churches and great other organizations are great opening their doors. So for the winter months, because it's the coldest month, they'll invite people in and they can stay for a couple of months and they can find bedding and food. There are some that will not go to these accommodations. Remember, you're dealing with lots of complex issues. You've got mental illness on the streets as well. With women, because if you're pregnant, you usually can get some sort of accommodation. So you do have mainly men out there. Some women are out there as well. So in the winter months, there is stuff there and there's some feeding programs. The government doesn't really, or the local council does not like you going on the streets and feeding the homeless. They say you're encouraging it. But there are organizations that still do that and will feed them, talk to them. Why, a lot of people want, don't just want to throw 10p at them or a pound. The best thing is to find out what's going on. It shows, talk to them. Why are you here? Because it gives you information to be able to, maybe you can do something, maybe you can't, but just to understand a little bit more about the crisis. There are key areas across our cities that people will be homeless. The conditions are filthy where they stay. It's not ideal. And so you recognize that would someone naturally want to be in this environment? Probably not. However, I've also worked with people that try to get a homeless person off the street by themselves, and the success rate is quite low. Because it's complex, I have to keep saying. It's not just about I've got a house for you to go and live in. This person's been on the street for how many years?
So are you trying to say they're getting used to that lifestyle?
It's it's like going into someone's house. If you have a dog or something, a cat, you don't notice the smell. If I come into your house, because I'm not used to it, I notice it. So you're living in something you've now become familiar to. If you've been living on the streets for 5 years or more, you're familiar. It's not, there's area, you get to know which corner to sleep in. You know what time the shop, it's all these things. Which night bus to go on. Where there's more food that's thrown away, which bin has it more. You get to develop your own sense of how to survive. And so that's what you're seeing.
So the government doesn't support helping the homeless because they're like, you're spoiling them. So what they...
I mean, they do give funding to organizations and charities.
To help them, but not to feed them on the street.
Not to feed them on the street.
So how would they get fed when they are not even...
You've got church organizations that definitely go out and feed. You've got organizations that will go out and talk to them and try and get them to come to centres. You've got a lot of work done around identifying where people are homeless, and now you can phone a number and say there's a homeless person located on this street. They'll come and talk to them and try and get them to come with them to a centre, etc. So you've got a mixture of both, trying to alleviate the problem.
So the one you do, what does your own organisation do?
So we will predominantly weekly we feed people within a centre in Brixton, and they come every week, and as I said, a mixture of those on the streets and those struggling, and then we also within the winter months will go out, so starting in March, go out on the streets late at night, because that's the time. So they have to wait for the shops to close and all these things, and then they're out there, we'll give them food, and really talk to them and find out about their situation, speak hope into their situation as well. A lot of them will say, no one's even spoken to me for a long time. We've seen women out there pregnant, although they shouldn't be out there pregnant, because if they've got a partner, they don't want to leave them. It's such a complex mix of people. Your heart will be moved by what you see on the streets.
I'm already moved already. I feel a bit, but so aside the homeless, because on a lighter note now, because that story is really, really touching. What do you do when you're free at your leisure time?
I am never free. What do I do? Yesterday's my friend's birthday, so I actually went to the cinema. I haven't been to the cinema for a year,
oh my
over
God.
2 years. But it's just, I'm busy doing lots of other things. I've been productive. You've got a short time on the earth and you want to maximize your time. You do. So I'm a taxi for my children.
Yeah, I know.
That's a very important job.
Yeah.
So I drop them here and there.
I do that too.
There you go. So it's all of that. And so, speaking at events where the opportunity arises.
Yes.
And things like that.
Okay, so what do you have on the pipeline?
Yes, so in March, I've got a speaking engagement coming up, North London, which is fantastic. For what I do for work, I'll be traveling overseas again to do some work there. So it's a mixture of different things. And I do some stuff on Facebook, put some videos out.
So do you want to give, in case, I'm sure some people are listening, some women are out there, and, don't let me say women, before I said, Tommy, you're just talking for the women. Anyone out there watching, and obviously you need somebody to talk to, or you even know someone that is homeless somewhere, and you've been trying to, bring home or talk to or help, you can also get in touch with Simone. I think, Simone, you should just give them your details.
Sure. It's Simone Olagoge.org. So that's my website, www.simoneolagoge.org.
Yes, on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook and on Twitter, so look me up, Simone Olagoge. Get in touch.
Thank you so much, Simone, for coming. It was like we're just chatting
yes,
away.
It was.
But because it's a live show, we just have to go. Thank you so much for coming. And wish you success in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
So we'll go on a quick break now. When we return, the Band Breakfast Show continues. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. For any professional live streaming production of any event,